We just had the first presidential debate, and in this video, I want to talk about what did the candidates talk about the economy and how what they said will impact the economy and the stock market. I don't want to politicize this video. I'm not trying to pick sides. I'm not trying to tell you who to vote and who is better than the other. That's not the point of this video. I will let that for you to decide. All that I'm going to do is that I will just take what they said and see how will that have an impact on the economy overall. Because this is probably going to be the only presidential debate that is going to happen during this election cycle. So the first thing that they actually talked about was taxes. It wasn't like literally the only thing or the first thing, but when it comes to the economy, taxes was the first thing they talked about. On one side, we had Trump. He basically said that he's going to cut taxes. If you listen to him, he didn't go into the details about what exactly he's going to do. He simply said that I'm going to lower taxes. So the only thing that we can say that Trump is going to do is by looking at his last presidential term, which taxes did he reduce and which taxes did he increase, for example. That might actually be something as a reference to see what Trump is going to do. Anything other than that, he did not mention at all during the debate. He mentioned just a couple of times that he's going to reduce taxes. How about Kamala Harris? What did she say about the economy? About taxes. She said that she's going to provide a $6,000 tax deduction to the people who just had a newborn. Is that a good thing? Well, absolutely. It's a great thing because the United States is having a serious demographic problem, and that tax incentive is something very positive to encourage people to have babies at this point. Now, the next thing she talked about is that she will provide a $50,000 tax deduction to small businesses. Is that something great? Well, absolutely. Encouraging businesses to grow is something amazing. But these are probably the only thing that she talked about when it comes to taxes. So if you want to know what the both candidates are going to do with the taxes at this point, you can't really know for a fact. Especially if you wanted to take something out of this presidential debate, then there is nothing to talk when it comes to taxes, because Trump basically kept saying that he's going to reduce taxes, and these are the only things that Kamala Harris said. She already repeated these things previously in her last not the debates, but actually her last performances previously. So there is nothing absolutely new when it comes to taxes. The next thing that they talked about when it comes to the economy are the tariffs. Now, the talk about the tariffs started with Kamala Harris actually calling it a sales tax that Trump introduced. She wanted to attack Donald Trump by saying that he increased tariffs on foreign goods and that caused inflation in the United States. Now, a tariff is basically a tax that you put on a foreign good. And Donald Trump started a trade war with China back in 2017 or 2018, if I'm not mistaken. You can Google that out. And he did is that he basically put an extra tax on imported goods from China in order to discourage Americans to buy Chinese goods and encourage people, for example, to buy American goods. That way, he might actually try to help maybe local manufacturers to boost the local economy, because anything has two sides. There's nothing that you can actually have just one side. Yes, tariffs will actually increase the cost of foreign goods at this point, but at the same time, they're supporting the local manufacturing. And vice versa. If you actually remove the taxes on foreign goods, on imported goods, if you reduce the tariffs, then Chinese goods in the United States are going to be more competitive than American goods. But what is interesting here is that if you actually watch what Kamala Harris actually said is that during the Biden's administration, when Biden became the president of the United States, he did not get rid of all those tariffs that Trump put in place. And remember, Kamala Harris was his VP. So you can see at this point that Kamala Harris basically agreed with Donald Trump on putting tariffs on China and the rest of the world. Because if you're actually blaming Trump for putting those tariffs, why didn't you get rid of those tariffs when you became the president? So I think both of these candidates agree that the United States must have tariffs on foreign goods, especially China, if it wants to protect its industries the way they believe they can actually protect them. Now, the next thing both of the candidates talked about was the Medicare. Medicare isn't really exactly the economy, but it's something important related to the economy. Because if you kind of pull out the budget of the United States and the spending of the government, you will realize that the US spends a lot of money on Medicare. And Trump made it clear that he is not against of getting rid of affordable Medicare, but he wants to restructure the entire system. He wants to take Medicare and he wants to restructure it. Is that something really great? Well, if you take a look at the US budget at this point, you'll realize that the US is spending $6.2 trillion at this point, but the income of the United States is probably like $4.2 trillion. So there is like $1.7 trillion deficit. Is that something great? Well, that's absolutely horrible, because who is going to pay this much money? And the only way for the US government is either to increase its revenue, and if you are going to increase taxes at this point, you're going to drive away businesses. So the only way to fix this problem is most likely to restructure its spending in such a way where the government is going to be smaller and it is going to spend less money and the budget is going to be balanced at this point. That is probably what the United States should do. And that's something what Donald Trump actually proposed. He wants to restructure the Medicare, and he didn't really mention about restructuring everything else. But what I know from previous things that he said is that he wants to create a committee that is going to audit the government spending, and Elon Musk is going to be part of it. That's a great thing, of course, but when it comes to Medicare, this is the only thing that he said, that he's going to keep the Affordable Act Care, but he's going to restructure it when he will actually come up with a plan. On the other side, Kamala Harris basically said that she's going to keep the Affordable Care Act and she's going to expand it, that more people will be added to the system at this point. Is that great for the people? Well, absolutely. The more people will join, the better it is. But we have to understand that these are not free things. You can't simply create value out of thin air. So if you're actually expanding it, you might need to restructure the cost to such a way that it is not going to cost the government so much money in the first place. Watch the entire debate, you will realize that both of the candidates didn't really talk much about the economy. These are just a few things that they talked about the economy. So if you're thinking that you will get something new that both of the candidates said about the economy, well, you can't really get anything like that. They basically slightly touched about the economy. The entire debate was about probably mostly immigration and abortion and foreign policy. They talked about how they will deal with all these wars that are happening across the globe. Well, on one side, of course, Trump is like, I gotta stop all these wars because it is actually draining the US budget and we need a stability around the world in order for the economy to flourish. On the other side, of course, the Democrats and Kamala Harris were like, no, we're gonna win all the wars that we started, even though that's going to cost us a lot of money. She didn't specifically said like that, but if you kind of watch the debate, that's basically the idea that I guess she was actually proposing. Now, again, I'm not saying which one of them is good. I'm just saying this was basically what the debate is all about. But the worst part about it was that the entire debate was about he said and she said. It's like Donald Trump is like, oh, here is Kamala Harris's plan and it's absolutely horrible. In fact, she does not have any kind of plan. On the other side, if you listen to what Kamala Harris said, is that this is Donald Trump's plan and it's absolutely horrible. And in fact, he does not have any kind of plan. So the entire debate was mostly about both of the candidates just attacking each other, trying to destroy each other. I gotta give credit to Kamala Harris because she actually prepared for the debate. And a lot of people thought that Trump is going to sweep the floor with her, but that didn't actually happen. It was like probably 50-50. Now, some people might say that the moderators were not fair to Donald Trump because they fact-checked him, for example, a few times during the debate, but they never fact-checked live Kamala Harris, which is unfair at this point. Again, I'm not saying that fact-checking is bad, but if you're fact-checking, you probably should fact-check both of the candidates at this point. That would be a fair game to play. The entire debate, if you look at it from the financial perspective and the economic side of it, both of the candidates didn't come up with any kind of serious plan, which tells you that they just want to become a president and then they will come out with a plan, which actually tells you for a fact that you should take care of yourself and not rely on the government, because the government isn't going to do much for you. You have to start investing, you have to start buying assets, and that's the only path that you should be actually taking. Because if you don't take care of yourself, no one is going to take care of yourself. So I will see you guys in the next video.